G'day everyone, it's Chris from Melting Matters. If you're new to the channel, a big warm welcome to you, and if you're a current subscriber, thank you very much for tuning in. If you are new and you like what you see, please consider subscribing. Leave a comment, hit that notification bell and click on that like button. You'll be doing me and my channel a huge favour. In today's video, I'm going to be making a third hand for some of my welding projects. I was having a discussion with my better half, and during that discussion it sort of came to me that I can make a third hand to give me an assistance out in the workshop without anyone else being there by using some silicon, making a mould out of my own hand obviously, and using pewter as the medium. The reason why I use pewter is it's going to provide the weight, that downward force that I need to hold those metal pieces in place. As you can see at the intro there, when you're welding stuff and you don't have clamps or the ability to get clamps into that location, it makes it a bit hard to sort of hold the item that you're welding, hold the torch or the electrode, and do other things whilst you're sitting there. So I thought, what better thing to do than melt down some pewter, had a couple of old things lying around, and make a big heavy third hand out of it. So here you just see I'm mixing up the silicon. It's a two-part silicon, ratio is 1:1 for mixing it. It's called PinkySil. It's from Barnes Products here in Australia. This stuff is really good. Problem being is the day I was making this video it was about 40 degrees Celsius outside. And as you can see, the silicon was setting pretty much as I was pouring it. I didn't think this was going to work out. I'm happy that it did, but at the end of the day, the silicon itself, it captured all the detail I wanted, but I did have a few errors, a little bit of flashing in there from where it captured the air, so where the silicon had obviously set prior to me getting my hand in there in time. Had it over to do it again, I'd probably take it inside there, into the house and use the air conditioning, slow down that curing process, because it only takes about 6 or 7 minutes for this stuff to really cure properly. And then just do it in a bit of a cooler environment. As you see, I'm using a glass cylinder for my mould container, and the suction of that vacuum is not letting me pull it out, so I just shoved down a little bit of the plastic from the tongue and groove piece of wood, broke that seal, and away it came. I'm just using some, what we call in Australia, frog tape. It's for masking paint areas and the like. It's pretty cheap per roll. What I'm doing is I'm just reinforcing the silicon. I didn't want to put it in a sand mold or anything, it's just too much mess. I thought I'll just run a couple of layers of tape around it, and it's just going to make it a little bit more sturdy, so when I do pour the pewter in there, nothing untoward's going to happen. The base of it's pretty solid, so it can stand up by itself, but at the end of the day I just wanted to be a little bit more cautious when I was doing it. I don't want to have molten metal running all over the workshop if something was to fail. Good thing about this PinkySil, its temperature grade is around about 400 degrees Celsius, so it can handle some fairly high temperatures, so you can melt pewter, lead, tin, bismuth, all that sort of stuff quite comfortably, and not have to worry about the mould disintegrating while you're pouring it in. See here, there was just an old vase or urn and a teapot. The teapot had a copper base on it, so I'll use that in a future project. Just scraping off the dross here. Just the impurities, so it's the tarnish, the oxides, probably some of the glues. You see, I saw a couple of pieces burning in there, and that was the wood they used to bolster the handles in manufacturing. There's a couple of little bits of plastic, some little screws, hinges, all those little things. And yeah, it just really good to scrape all that out so you don't have any inclusions that you didn't want in your mould or in your cast at the finish. Just using a little bit of baby powder inside the silicon. This allows the fluid to flow really freely inside the mould and doesn't allow it to clog up or have a cold shut put in it, just simply by pouring into the bare silicon. The powder gives it a really nice coating on the inside. The metal flows around, fills all the holes, don't need to put any vents or anything in. And the weight of the pewter is actually pretty good as well when you're pouring. You see I have to use 2 hands here, and it's not even half a saucepan, but it's fairly weighty. Fill. fill a little bit more, and too much. So just have a little bit of pewter splashing out the side there. The interesting thing is when pouring this, or when stirring the pewter, unlike when you stir water with a spoon, there's basically no resistance. It's just a surreal effect when you're stirring pewter with, or any molten metal like lead or tin or bismuth. It's really, really heavy, and the amount of resistance you've got when you're stirring the pot is incredible. So I left it for about an hour. The silicon does keep the heat in there a lot, and I just wanted to make sure that it was going to cure or set all the way through. Didn't want to pull it out and have a finger pop open and all the liquid pour out from the inside. So I left it for a good hour, came back. It's still warm to touch, not hot, but yeah. I can reuse that mould, put a nice little cut in the side. Should be able to register quite easily, and when I feel like doing another mould, if I'm going to do one here, or more than likely I'm going to get some more Pinky-Sil later on down the road and get some higher detail out of it, do it in the cool. But as you can see, the detail that came out of this thing is fantastic. Caught all the lines and grooves, caught my fingerprints as well. Just really happy with the inside of the finger there as well, where the thumb crosses over the other fingers. As you can see, the flashing that you see, or the little bit of extra pewter on top of the hand and inside the hand there that I'll be cleaning up now, that's those air bubbles. As the silicone was curing while I was putting my hand in it, that's the air bubbles that formed, and I'm actually surprised that there's not more. I'm really happy with the little amount there was. The only deformation of the cast itself was on top of the pointer finger, where you see there's like a little ridge line there, and that's come from obviously a fold as I've pushed my hand in there and wiggled them around to get the silicone all around my fingers. That's obviously folded in a little bit there, so I've just cleaned the top off that a little bit. And as you can see, the bronzy type colour, or the bronze type sheen that you have on the hand, that's caused through the talcum powder burning and forming a layer on top of the pewter. Pretty easy to get rid of. Just get a wire brush. Once I clean all this up, I hit it with a wire brush and it comes out really nice. I didn't want to go too much into the finishing because I didn't want to remove any of the detail. I know if I had started sanding this thing, I just would have ended up with a very mute, mundane hand with no detail. It would have just been the fingers wrapped around, or thumb wrapped around my fingers with the pointer finger out with no detail on it. So I wanted to keep all the textures and details that have all, but at the same time remove the major flaws in it. It probably took about an hour cleaning up with the Dremel there. As you can see there, it's nice and shiny. I took the white brush to it and gave it a good polish up. So what I'm doing here is I'm just measuring the bar that I'm going to use. I've got this piece of bar from an axle from the pulleys, or the rollers that you find in treadmills. It's a solid piece of steel, so I'm just going to cut about 3 inches off, so just under 8 centimeters worth of steel off. That's going to provide the base, so the anti-tilt base, and then I'm going to heat the steel bar up, bend it into a shape so that when I place it on a material, the thumb and fingers that is at the base of the third hand don't actually touch the table or anything. So I'm just making a hole in the base of the pewter here. It's about 50 millimeters deep. Should be enough. And what I'll do is I'll end up epoxying the handle inside the finger there. And here I'm just rounding down a little bit on the handle, just taking it down in size a little bit just to fit into that hole. Didn't want to make the hole too big in the hand, risking encroaching on the edges, having a blowout or anything like that, and having to redo the whole thing. So I decided to just mount the angle grinder in a bench vise and just take away some of the excess. Just using a butane torch here to heat up the piece of steel, and that's where the bend's going to be. It's not going to be a huge bend, but as I said before, enough to lift the whole hand off the table, so I've got a bit more weight pressing down on the finger. Moved it down a bit in the vise there. I was hitting it up a bit higher. I thought it was going to bend a little bit easier than what it did. and I'm just using the vice there nice and low. Provides a bit more of a fulcrum or a leverage point, so I can bend the steel there quite easily. Just excuse the mess in the background. I've got a few projects on the go at the moment. So just welding up the balancing end, or the stabilising arm, on the back end of the rod. As you can see there, I'm just using a piece of steel and an angle grinder disc as a spacer, and a piece of steel there, the box steel at the back, just to hold things in place while I put the first couple of tacks in. In the future, this thing that I'm making, the third hand, is going to be providing a lot more assistance, so that's where I'll be putting the finger. Yep, it's pewter. Yep, when the hot metal from the welder hits it, it's going to get a little bit of pitting on it. But at the end of the day, it is what it is. It's just a tool to use in the workshop. Blemishes are going to add a bit of character, and yeah, it should work quite adequately for the small projects that I do. Just finish up the weld. Just want to make this a little bit more solid, just so it supports the weight a bit more. The hand actually weighed about 4.3 kilos. It's at close to 9 pounds. So it's a fairly heavy item, which is good. That's what I was after. It's going to allow me to place the tool or place the third hand on a piece of equipment or piece of metal that I'm welding, or just holding something in place with that little bit of extra weight behind it. A little bit better than a light one, and if I need to, then I can always clamp the electrode, the earth electrode, to the third hand and press on top of something. I can get a bit of a current, or sorry, a circuit through to help me weld as well. Just checking for center here before I go epoxying, and I end up drawing a mark on top just so I've got a registration point. Just having a look how the hand fits. And as I said before, I'm just going to epoxy that. It should be plenty sufficient to hold it in place. And there she is, all done. Just a bit of a test on the water bottle, just to make sure she doesn't tip over. It's nice and sturdy. Really like it. It looks pretty good too. Came up a treat. I'm very happy with the way it turned out. And here you'll see, just testing the weight of the finger, or the third hand. Going to stack these 4 high. And you'll see when I put the finger on top of it, or the third hand on top of it, it actually holds it pretty good. So I'll be able to get in there. The steel from the MIG welder's not going to be able to push it over. You can see it's fairly firm there. And that's it. That's the video done, guys. Hope you enjoyed what you saw. Hope you got some inspiration out of it. If you liked the video, please hit that like button. If you're new to the channel, as I mentioned at the start of the video, please hit that subscribe button, and I'll see you in the next video. Cheers, guys.